We are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending. We are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending. We are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending. We are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending. We are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending. We are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending. You might enjoy our circle. We sing and move. A circle with no beginning and never ending. You hear us singing, you hear us cry. Now hear us call you, spirits of air and sky. You are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending. We are
Inside our heart, there glows a spark, love and desire, a burning fire.
We are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending. Within our blood, within our tears, there lies the altar of living water. We are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending.
Take our fear, take our pain, take the darkness into the earth again.
We are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending. We are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending. We are a circle within a circle with no beginning and never ending. This circle closes between the world to mark this sacred space where we come face to face. Within a circle with no beginning and never ending.
Good morning. Good morning. We would like to acknowledge that this service is being held by a community that gathers on the traditional lands. I'll start again. We would like to acknowledge that this service is being held by a community that gathers on the stolen traditional lands of the Massachusetts, Nipmuc, Pawtucket, and Wampanoag people. We pay respect to those Indigenous peoples who lost their lives in the colonization of this land and recognize that these indigenous tribes are still today facing violations of sovereignty, territory, and water. We also give thanks for the earth we walk upon, the waters, the life-giving plants, and all the earth's creatures, as well as the winds, sun, moon, and stars. We recognize that this is just a first step in moving toward right relationship with Native peoples and the healing of the earth. Good morning again. That was a great way to start walking around. Welcome to the First Parish Church of Stowe and Acton, FPC, to our members and friends, a welcoming and spiritual community. My name is Susan Avery, and I serve as a member of the worship committee. If this is your first time with us, we welcome you. Please let us know you are here by filling out one of our visitor information cards in the pews and hand it in to an usher, drop it in the plate, or hand it to Meg, our welcoming staff member. We won't add you to any of our email lists unless you check that box to do so. Our minister and staff are listed on the front of the order of service. Please feel free to ask me or any of these people for more information about the church and its programs after the service or by email through the chat if you're online. We also invite you to check out our webpage for news and information, and you can also sign up for our newsletter and email alerts. We ask that people remain masked in our sanctuary, except in the balcony, and if you're speaking here, and in church offices and RE spaces, but the rest of our building is mask optional. Please check with people you're talking to about their comfort levels, and please make sure the air filters are on when you congregate in any room. If you would like a large print order of service or hymnal, or an assisted listening device, please ask our ushers. Our assisted listening devices are actually small radios that work throughout the building. If you would like to listen to the service from another space for any reason. After the service, please join us for coffee and conversation in our fellowship hall, which is one level down at the other end of our building, or in a breakout room if you are joining us online. I'd like to draw your attention to the announcements in our order of service, particularly the last RE Cottage meeting, which is being held in the community room after the service. And the announcements will also include information about signing up for email lists. Our minister, the Reverend Dr. Cindy Landrum, is not with us this morning. Lindsay LaPointe is a member of this church and serves on the Religious Education Committee. She is honored to be sharing the narrative around the documentary, YRUU, that she has been developing and directing over the last 2 years. The music this morning is a cappella and repetitive, as you have already experienced. Please feel free to join in whenever you feel moved. And now let us come together for a time of community, singing, and worship.
I think we also have some time to greet our neighbor. So let's do that now. Say hello to someone new, someone you want to say hi to. Thank you. I've always wanted to do that. Our opening words come from YRUU participant Tyson F. Nuss. Imagine a gathering of the most free-spirited yet fiercely principled teenagers in town, meeting every Sunday afternoon. Now, imagine a weekend at conferences of these groups, gathering from across the entire geographic district or nationwide. Often the weird kid in our respective schools. We gather in solidarity to find we weren't so weird and alone after all. So my daughter Quinn helped pass out some chalice lighting words to some folks, and we're gonna pass the mic down. So if you have one of those, just, can you grab the mic there? Yeah. And can I have someone, Brad, will you light the chalice for us? Great. You can start us out, Marcia.
To worship is to stand in awe under a heaven of stars before a flower. With a new mic, a leaf in the sunlight, or a grain of sand.
To worship is to be silent, receptive before a tree astir with the wind, or the passing shadow of a cloud.
To worship is to work with dedication and with skill. It is to pause from work and listen to a strain of music.
To worship is to sing with the singing beauty of the earth. It is to listen through a storm to the still small voice within.
Worship is a loneliness seeking communion. It is a thirsty land crying out for rain.
It goes to Graham, Ingrid over there. Yeah.
Worship is kindled fire within our hearts. It moves through deep deeds of kindness and through acts of love.
Worship is the mystery within us reaching out to the mystery beyond. It is an inarticulate silence, yearning to speak it. It is the window of the moment open to the sky of the eternal.
Thank you, everyone. I chose those words because my youth group chose those words when we did a Sunday morning service when I was, I don't know, maybe 16 or 17. So we're now gonna do a song together, and there are some hand movements that go along with it that I thought I'd share with you. So the first line is, gather here in the mystery of the hour. So you gather the air around you, yeah. The next one is, you get a little bigger. Gather here in one strong body. Yeah, so it's on the number one, word one, clap. Yeah, try from the top. Gather here in the mystery of the hour. Bigger. Gather here in one strong body. Nice. Okay, so last thing here, gather here. You bring it a little bit further down, gather here to the struggle. So like make a struggle, the struggle and the power. And then the very last thing is, because it's simple, spirit, draw near, bring it in. So that last part is, we're up here. Gather here in one strong body. Gather here through the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. So I invite you to rise and try this out. Deep breath in we go. Gather here in the mystery of the hour. Bigger. Gather here in one strong body. Gather here through the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Let's do it 2 more times. Here we go. Gather here in the mystery of the hour. gather here in one strong body. Gather here through the struggle and the power. Spirit, join. One more time, here we go. Gather here in the mystery of the hour. Gather here in one strong body. Gather here through the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Thank you, everyone. So it's now time for the message of all ages, and I invite the young and young at heart to come up and gather with me down here. I'll throw a mask on so I can be close to you. We're gonna read the story Desmond Gets Free. Did I miss something? Oh my gosh, okay. Now we will say our covenant and affirmation. I'll start saying, you can join along with me. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Now it's time for the message for all ages. So if you'd like to come forward, come join me. You don't have to. No. You not come forward. So we are going to be reading an adapted story from Desmond Gets Free, and it's by Matt Meyer. Matt Meyer is someone who I had the chance to meet and interview or ask a lot of questions of, and for the video that I'm making. So here we go. Here's an adaptive story. Desmond the mouse lived in the most beautiful meadow in all the land. Every morning, Desmond woke with the sunrise and would spend the day playing in the meadow. And every evening, Desmond would go to sleep in the middle of the meadow under the beautiful starry sky. One night, though, Desmond awoke when it was still dark out and realized that his tail was stuck. He felt behind him, and there was a huge boulder that seemed to have fallen in the middle of the meadow, just on his tail. Desmond pushed on the boulder and tugged on his tail, but it was no use. When he was out of breath, he had just about given up. Then he saw a giraffe nearby in the grass. "Oh, giraffe," Desmond cried out, "could you please push the boulder a few inches in the other direction so that I could go free?" The giraffe looked at Desmond and laughed. "Oh, silly mouse," said the giraffe. "That's no boulder. That's an elephant. It's fallen asleep in the middle of the meadow, just on your tail." Well, if you could just wake the elephant and ask him to roll over just a few inches in the other direction, I could go free." "Well," replied the giraffe, "you know what they say about letting sleeping elephants lie. I find it's best to not get involved in other animals' business. I find it's best to remain neutral in times like these." Desmond quietly replied, Well, I do not appreciate your neutrality. The giraffe wandered off, and Desmond tried calling out to the elephant to wake him, but those giant ears were just too far away on the other side of the giant elephant body. So again, Desmond pushed on the elephant and tugged on the tail, and when he was out of breath, he had just about given up, and a gazelle wandered by. And the gazelle had the same response the giraffe did. They chose to remain neutral and not wake up the elephant. And Desmond did not appreciate their neutrality. When he was out of breath from shouting and pulling some more, he saw a mole wander through the meadow. Their name was Nelson, and Desmond explained the situation and asked for their help. Well, of course, said Nelson. So Nelson tried calling out to the elephant on their own, but he didn't budge. The elephant heard Nelson's small voice far away, but he felt too comfortable to move. Nelson had an idea and ran off. When they came back, they weren't alone. Nelson had found 3 friends to help them: a meerkat, a hedgehog, and a squirrel. Each one of them had also brought another 3 friends. The whole group of them ran over the giant head of the elephant. They climbed up until the whole group of them had formed a long animal ladder right up the side of the elephant. At last, Nelson climbed up the shoulders of the animal ladder, until they were standing next to the giant elephant ear. "Excuse me," they called right in the elephant's ear. "It seems you've fallen asleep on my friend's tail in the middle of this meadow. I wonder if you could just roll over a few inches in the other direction so he might go free." The elephant made a giant groan. "Ugh, I'm too comfortable where I am. Go away." Then, all at once, the group of animals yelled out together. Can you all help me now? Okay, repeat after me. "Excuse me. Excuse me. It seems you've fallen asleep on our friend's tail. It seems you've fallen asleep on our friend's tail. In the middle of this meadow. In the middle of this meadow. Roll over a few inches in the other direction. Roll over a few inches in the other direction. So he can go free. So he can go free." This time, all those voices together right next to the elephant's ear were too loud to ignore. "I was comfortable where I was, but I'll move over if you just agree to stop making such a racket," the elephant cried out. And then the elephant rolled over just a few inches in the other direction, and Desmond was finally free. So when I met Meyer and asked him a bunch of questions, in one of his responses, he said these words that have really stuck with me. "The youth of our church are not our future. They are our present." And for me, this says that your voices as young people and ideas are just as important as anyone here in this church. You are very important to all of us, and we love learning from you. So now it's time we're going to sing our children down to RE today. We're going to be singing Peace, Go Now in Peace. Yes. So I'll start singing and join in. And Marissa will take over now.
I wanted to invite Graham to come and light the lantern, and I asked Graham because he was one of 4 youth who came with Lindsay and I to a youth conference yesterday in Worcester. So we got to be part of a day with almost 60 Unitarian Universalist teens and did many different workshops with dance and improv and housing justice. So Graham will light our lantern that children and youth will follow down to religious education. And junior and senior youth are invited to stay in worship today to listen to Lindsay's sermon, or if you'd like to come down to help out in a younger class, you're welcome to.
We will now enter into meditation and prayer together. As we begin, I invite you to think back to your teenage self, and for some of you, this is current. Think of some moments that brought you to where you are today. I'm reminded of Mr. Rogers, who was able to minister to me through the TV. I wish to share an exercise in gratitude that he did back in 1997 when he was accepting the Lifetime Achievement Award. He said, "Oh, it's a beautiful night in this neighborhood. So many people have helped me to come to this night. Some of you are here, some are far away, and some are even in heaven. All of us have special ones who loved us into being. Would you just take along with me 10 seconds to think of the people who have helped you become who you are? Those who cared about you and wanted what was best for you in your life. 10 seconds. I'll count." Whomever you've been thinking about, how pleased they must be to know the difference you feel they have made. As we explore these thoughts a little further, I want you to think about who helped you to get here, who helped you into your becoming. Did you have an inclusive community growing up? Did you have safe adults who helped empower you to be who you are? If you didn't, how do you think it might have helped you? As you meditate on these questions, I invite you to listen to your body, heart, and mind and spirit, and do what feels right for you to process these questions. Some suggestions could be to write down your thoughts, or doodle, or journal or journey around the room. There are finger labyrinths in the front placed for you to borrow. You are welcome to come get one. We'll bring us all back together when the moment feels right.
Dear friends, let me tell you how I feel. You have given me such treasures. I love you so. Dear friends, let me tell you how I feel. You have given me such treasures. I love you so. Dear friends, let me tell
I'm going to be sharing a couple of videos today. The first one is a highlight from an interview for this documentary, and it comes from Laila Ibrahim. Thank you, Sharon.
So I think a lot of the things that I think about as a religious educator, as a novelist, as a Unitarian Universalist, as a mother can directly be tied to YRUU. Even the name tells you that, right? I mean, that's what's so funny about it. It's just like, why are you you? Why are you a Unitarian Universalist? Why are you the person that you are? One of the things, so there are 4 theological statements that we share with the kids at Chalice Camp. And the first one is, it's a blessing you were born. And for me, the it's a blessing you were born is both like you, this person is a blessing you were born, but it's also like, what are the chances you would be born? Like that sperm, that egg, evolution, like when you think about all the things that had to happen for you to get into being, you should just be awestruck that you exist. So to take that seriously, right? The fact that you're a gift of creation in this world, and what will you do with that? That to me directly comes out of my Unitarian Universalist theology and YRUU. Like just this sense of like, okay, I have the gift of life. What am I going to do with that? My life matters, right? It matters what I do with my life is the second theological statement that we say. So it's like, it was a gift I was born. Well, now what am I going to do with this life, right? My one precious life.
Our plate is shared this month with RIA House. RIA provides a range of services to support people within commercial sex work and its associated exploitation, trafficking, and prostitution. FPC has embraced and supported RIA House since its start 12 years ago. To support RIA House and this house of worship, we invite you to give as you are able to this morning's offering, which is received with gratitude.
We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One.
We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One.
We are opening, we are opening, we are opening, we are opening, we are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. We are opening, we are opening, we are opening, we are opening. We are rising like a phoenix from the fire. Brothers and sisters, spread your wings and fly higher.
We are rising like a phoenix from the fire. Brothers and sisters, spread your wings and fly higher.
We are rising up. We are rising up. We are rising up. We are rising up. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the one. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening.
Everyone knows how fraught the teenage years are with normal bouts of insecurity and loneliness as our bodies change and we straddle the world between childhood and adulthood. Adolescents struggle with feelings of belonging, adrift until they find their people. Sometimes it takes a lifetime. Finding a community with intention was not on my radar as a 13-year-old growing up in Duxbury, Massachusetts. I had just finished taking the course AYS, or About Your Sexuality, which is now named OWL, Our Whole Lives, where I experienced bonding with other youth from different churches in the area. Then, with very little knowledge of what came next, I came of age into the Young Religious Unitarian Universalist program, YRUU, an internationally acclaimed youth empowerment program born from its predecessor, LRY, or Liberal Religious Youth. Fitting in school felt hard. And I often found myself suppressing who I was. A dancer with long, frizzy hair who followed the rules and wanted to be in places of acceptance. I found this in YRUU. But first, who am I now? As some of you know, I'm a dancer and a mother, a wife, filmmaker, and creative with her own business. And I would not be empowered to be who I am today if it were not for the Young Religious Unitarian Universalist program. I can say the same thing for my good friend Dawn McKechnie. Now also a mother, wife, and graphic designer, Dawn is also the director of children and youth ministry for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Barnstable. It's a job I could see coming for her since the age of 16. Even then, she was a leader to her peers, listening and guiding them to better places. So recently we mused, once again, as we've done many times since our young age of 10. So over a pandemic Zoom call, we started asking the questions: what was the magic in our YRUU experience that we did not find anywhere else? What made this youth program, which ignited us with values of social and radical justice, so different from other religious youth programs and was so impactful in our lives? So we immediately surveyed over other YRUU participants about their experience, and was it just as transformative or impactful so many years later? Upwards to 300 people have responded, and it's still growing. One response from Caitlin Dulling sums up what we kept hearing: transformative, life-saving. I clung to my con and YRUU experiences like a life raft. They gave me a tiny window into what my future could be outside my small town. Our worship services were exercises in creativity, in expressing what mattered to our angst, feeling-filled teenage hearts. The adults in the room acted like it all mattered, and that made all the difference. So I looked in to see if there were any documentaries made about Unitarian Universalism and came up with nothing. So I realized that I could make one because I have the access to the subject matter. And in true UU tradition, what better way to have the story of the youth be the first to do so through this medium? Dawn and I knew that making a documentary about this extraordinary YRUU program was something worth telling. So officially, YRUU operated within the Unitarian Universalist Association starting in 1983. After 2 national conferences called Common Ground 1 and 2 that enabled change from LRY program to YRUU. The history of LRY is another documentary project in itself. But it must be mentioned to tell the story of YRUU. YRUU ended up lasting 25 years and ended in 2008. So with the help of Naomi Cooker, who provides us an outside perspective, having grown up a preacher's kid in the Methodist Church, she, Dawn, and I began this journey. Our title, YRUU, is now all spelled out. It's a feature documentary that reveals where the real power lies long after disbandment of YRUU. Now, I've been told by the former UUA president, Reverend Bill Sinkford, during an on-camera interview, that the word disbandment isn't exactly correct. Bill was president at the time when the program started to begin its sunset. There were dreams of reimagining a new YRUU, a Common Ground 3, to focus less on the continental program and more on the local youth groups. What ended up coming to be was that the YRUU program funding was cut and no program ever replaced it. Many current youth groups around the country are still using the YRUU name, but with little to no knowledge about the history behind it. This we are finding is confusing for some people. Why are you talking about YRUU in the past tense? So our purpose in making this documentary is to document and hold space in our UU history and show how YRUU transformed and saved lives, but how teen empowerment is nothing to mess with. When we find a sense of belonging at the most tender times in our lives, we thrive as adults. We learn how to lead with our voices. So how do we begin to tell a story from 25 years of a shared experience? There was a shift in our approach when we realized that we were not making a documentary about a program, but about the people who experienced it. But of course, to allow for context about the program, we will offer the stories of the 5 components of YRUU, which were leadership development, community building, worship, social action, and learning experiences. Within these components, it tells the stories of how youth gathered and created their conferences, but it also discusses the hard work they began doing around racism. So I would like to share a clip from Bill Sinkford, Reverend Bill Sinkford, about what he had to say about this effort.
When I became president of the UUA in 2001, I had to expand what anti-racism made. I began offering more different kinds of training, different paths. And I had to recognize that the pushback was such that we had to pull back at the denominational level. Felt like I was pushing anti-racism, and there were fewer and fewer takers at the adult level. The youth were quite different. The youth embrace the journey toward wholeness. They embrace the trainings. They embrace what's called the analysis, that this is not about personal racism. This is about institutional racism and cultural racism. The youth got it, but the adults did not.
So as mentioned earlier, YRUU was created out of the former program Liberal Religious Youth. And with this comes a generation that saw this change from LRY to YRUU hurtful, to the full youth empowerment experience with adding more adult presence. Caprice Young was one of the youth invited to join others from around the country to begin creating a brand new youth program. When we asked her what the secret sauce was of adding more adults into the work with the youth, she responded with this. We're going to show Caprice Young now.
So I think fundamentally, the secret sauce is that we have to have respect for the inherent dignity and worth of every person. Sound familiar? And what we discovered was that adults often did not and do not have respect for the inherent worth and dignity of all of the youth. And part of that is respecting the intellectual capacity at whatever stage is developmentally appropriate for youth to make their own decisions, and the importance of the role of adults in helping them learn how to make those decisions. So what we weren't asking the adults to do was say, we're 12, just trust us. That wasn't it. It was, we're 12, we want to make our own decisions, teach us how.
So a side note to say that when YRUU began in 1983, the age range was 12 to 22, which in itself is problematic. So later it was changed to 14 to 20. One of the reasons YRUU ended up being so successful for its time was the collaboration between youth and adults. Trained advisors provided a sense of safety and guidance, instilling trust in teens. In turn, the teens were empowered by gaining confidence in their own leadership skills. But when adult supervision waned, so too did YRUU. Betty Jean Rudders Ward was asked to speak about YRUU at the Synergy Worship at the UUA General Assembly in 2011. If you aren't familiar with the process of speaking at GA, it is a requirement to submit beforehand what you speak. She submitted a speech for approval, but then went rogue and spoke from her heart instead. Here's a clip from that sermon. This is Betty Jean.
YRUU was a beloved community in which youth and adults worshiped together in creative, emotional, and revelatory ways, be it in church basements at midnight, in forests at twilight, or in a parking lot at dawn. YRUU taught us that practicing one's faith cannot and must not be contained within the walls of a congregation or a Sunday morning. Through YRUU, we learned that love and that faith are not just concepts, they are actions. Through YRUU, we learned that we did not just need a faith that is liberal, we needed a faith that is revolutionary. So let me ask, YRUU, are you here tonight? As you can hear today, many of us are professional leaders and active volunteers in our congregations. And most of us are not. Some of us haven't been to church in a long time. Some of us may never return. Some of us feel as if we've been raised to be too radical for our own congregations. But make no mistake, no matter our formal involvement, we are not lapsed Unitarian Universalists. We have not lost or left this faith. Unitarian Universalism pulses through our veins as it has since we learned to speak or ride a bicycle or fall in love. Unitarian Universalism informs how we build our relationships. It informs how we make meaning of our lives, and it informs how we commit our gifts to the common good. Unitarian Universalism lit in us a fire of commitment that still shines brightly wherever and however we practice our faith.
I get to go to Brooklyn next weekend to interview Betty Jean. Very excited. So what are some of these participants doing now in their lives? Jen Devine is a sex educator in the Bay Area who lives in a communal home that she was able to buy through a crowdsourced fundraising effort, mostly funded by former friends of YRUU. Her bathroom wall is covered in button pins from youth events and social justice rallies. Lila Ibrahim, who you saw earlier, also lives in a communal home in Berkeley, California. Lila self-published her book, Yellow Crocus, in 2011, after agents repeatedly told her no one would want to read a story about the love between an enslaved Black woman and her privileged charge. Over the years, the readers have proven them wrong. Reverend Jason Lydon was the first person I knew had to be featured in this YRUU story. In 2005, after his own 6 months in correction for the simple act of civil disobedience, aimed at raising awareness about the schools of America and the US foreign policy in Latin America, he founded an organization, Black and Pink. Black and Pink's mission is to work with the LGBTQ/HIV positive prisoners while simultaneously organizing to abolish the prison industrial complex. Reverend Dr. Kristen Harper was only the second Black woman to be called into a Unitarian Universalist congregation as the sole minister in 2000. Kristen went through YRUU program at the early stages and did not have a great experience. She didn't feel included like her older siblings. When she had the opportunity as an adult to come back to the program while working in the UUA, she worked with the YRUU Youth and Youth Council, providing anti-racism, anti-oppression training. As an advisor and ally, she made it her mission to have youth feel included and empowered. As a queer trans teen, Sam Ames founded an accepting, loving community in YRUU that allowed them to grow and be who they were. They most recently changed jobs from working as the Director of Advocacy and Government, I'll start over, so many words. They were most recently changed jobs from working as the Advocacy Government Affairs at the Trevor Project to becoming the Chief of Staff for the Department of Education Office in the Civil Rights Department under the Biden administration. "I can't stop organizing," he says. "That's what YRUU did to me." Anna Sale is an interviewer and writer. Since 2014, she has hosted the podcast Death, Sex, and Money for WNYC Studios. She calls her work on the podcast a way to minister to the people, and originally came up with the idea while spending time on Star Island. Most recently, we traveled to Louisiana at the home of Bart and Amelia Frost in New Orleans. They met in YRUU. Bart shared that his teaching work in an all-Black high school is only possible due to his racial training and equity for justice in YRUU. So we joke that there are YRUU secret agents working all over the world, having soaked up the UU values at a young age, and they're now embedded it naturally into their life's work. There are stories from teachers, Pulitzer Prize-winning radio producers, mediators for large corporations, lawyers who work in foster care children, people who work with the homeless, hospice workers, ministers who choose to lead worship in new ways. And yes, our very own minister, Cindy Landrum, will offer her YRUU story. So today, youth groups are connected to their local congregations, and there are programs who still offer weekend conferences, and many summer camps have stayed alive in YRUU traditions. But the days of 300 plus youth coming up to the microphone at General Assembly to state their collective, discussed view on a certain topic is not present. For myself, I was always in awe of my peers around me. Youth that would stand up for what they believed and help encourage me to find my own path. In the beginning of this project, I had doubts and fears, as one does when they start something new. I wasn't one of those leaders in YRUU, so how could I possibly be the one to do this? But then my collaborator, Dawn, said to me, "You're not a leader, you're a connector." So looking back at the times Dawn and I, we realized the special gifts we had as teenagers. When we lost one of our local youth group members to a terrible tragedy, we jumped into action and created an entire memorial service for this person's friends who were outside the UU faith. Our youth advisor was there to support us, and they simply just showed up and let us do it. So as you look back to your own adolescence, or if you're currently an adolescent, ask yourself the question, why are you you? If you're an adult now, how do you relate yourself back to your teenage years? Are you afraid of teenagers? Were there new trends that you don't quite understand, or how they dress and why they're always on their phones? Have you seen a spark in their eyes when they get to teach you something? It is not easy to tone down our adult reasoning when interacting with youth. I invite you to take a beat or two and tap into the sense of wonder, creativity, naiveness. Your small encouragement could possibly help a young person discover who they are becoming.
Stand and join us in our closing hymn, number 1023, Building Bridges. Michael's going to sing the first verse, and then we'll all join in after him.
Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you when you reach out to me. With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we should make such sweet love. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, I will take bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices, the sweet harmony, building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and the beat of the visions, with friends will you make such sweet harmony. Friends will you make such sweet harmony.
The benediction words come from YRUU youth leader Scott Keeler. You had to be there. Like the feeling of awe when you walk into a beautiful old church, but while holding hands with a new friend. And the cool music breaks out, and you must dance. Knowing that your dance is goofy, but still being not only embraced by all there, but celebrated and echoed.
Peace be with you till we meet again. As life lays its task before you, keep us banner floating before you. Peace be with you till we meet again.
So our postlude is one last video for you.
This is my first political campaign. I made this button. It's called I Bought Poll. I bend over to pick up litter. I was a litter activist as a kindergarten.
I mean, I think Unitarians have always been grounded in this idea of like social justice and trying to make the world a better place. You know, the wish that I've always made for my birthday on candles has always been, you know, I want every single person to know that they are of worth, they are of value. Because if we could know that, we couldn't hate on anybody. Because you'd see other people's, you're like, oh, you can't be a racist, a homophobe, or a misogynist, because you know everybody else is of worth.